washed away. I know a place where night is turned to day. Burdens are lifted, blind eyes made to see. There's a wonder-working power in the blood of Calvary. All right, one second. John, can we turn the floor flood down just a little? It's blinding off the pages up here, please. Thank you. All right, let's go and sing through that again. I know a fount, again, should be familiar to you. I know a fount where sins are washed away. I know a place where night is turned to day. Burdens are lifted, blind eyes made to see. There's a wonder-working power in the blood of Calvary. All right, turn forward just a couple of pages is song number 629. Again, a familiar chorus, How He Loves You and Me. We'll sing through both verses of this, song number 623. Oh, how He loves you and me. Oh, how He loves you and me. He gave His life, what more could He give? Oh, how He loves you. Oh, how He loves me. Oh, how He loves you and me. Jesus to Calvary did go, His love for mankind to show. What He did there brought hope from despair. Oh, how He loves you. Oh, how He loves me. Oh, how He loves you and me. All right, we're going to let you stand for our final song, song number 635. Song 635. Again, just going through a couple of choruses this evening. I have decided to follow Jesus. A great truth here, especially the last one there. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Song number 635, I have decided to follow Jesus. 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 No turning back, no turn. Let's pick it up just a little on the second. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. The world behind me, the cross before me. No turning back, no turning back. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. Though none go with me, still I will follow. No turning back, no turning back. All right, great singing. Please remain standing.
Let's pray, and then you can be seated. Lord, thank you for the time, and we do thank you for the opportunity to enjoy fellowship, and we are thankful that we can read Scripture and study And so I pray that you'll bless our evening and help us to go away refreshed. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you. You can be seated. You all braved the snow, so you love me so much. I'm touched. I know we do have a lot of people that are watching tonight, but I have the live bodies out here, so you're responsible to answer all the questions now. Let me take care of a couple of announcements. We have no game. Okay, I heard that right before. There is not a game on Friday. They've canceled school already, I guess, for the rest of the week. And then Sunday, Lord willing, we'll have the regular schedule. There is talk of a snowstorm, but it doesn't look like it's going to come over this far. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I don't think it's going to affect anything here. We'll have a combined growth class in here. Andrew Threlfall will be teaching. And then we have the morning worship service. And there's a deacons and trustees and wives lunch and meeting after the service. And we do have missionaries this week. And then next Sunday, we have our missionary and then the faith promise and the international dinner. And then we originally had Steve Rebert for this past Sunday, and I've moved him. He is going to come February 22nd. And then we also had a growth class we were going to do focusing on the missionaries. And so we're going to do that the same week. And pay attention to the missions banquet information, an international dish and a side dish, and then a dessert or a drink. So be planning what you're going to do for that. And then the Super Bowl. So is anybody excited about the Super Bowl? Yeah, if you have not been paying attention, it's going to be Seattle against New England. We do have some New England fans. Do we have any here? Amber's not here. Yeah, but even with that, we do a Super Bowl party. And so if you want to come watch the Super Bowl at the house, you can come for the whole thing. You can come for half of it. You can come for the food.
I didn't know Amber was a Patriots fan before we got married, just to clarify.
You know, that should be on the marriage application. There ought to be a little bit of, disclosure there. Yeah.
Is it being a Ravens fan kind of?
Well, I wouldn't marry a Ravens fan, but
Just saying.
Yeah. So Super Bowl party, if you want to come, you're welcome to come for that. Let Christy or me know so we know how many seats to put in the living room. Then you'll get information. I don't have any more information about this tonight, but February 15th, they're doing a Valentine banquet after the service. It's a fundraiser for the teens going to camp, and so you'll hear a little bit more about that. And then this one, I know you can't read a bunch of it. There'll be a flyer in the bulletin on Sunday, and I'll send something out with email as well. But this is the Evans home in Winchester, and Pee Wee Patch is doing a project. They have a wish list online, and we'd like to just donate some things from the church. And so if you want to be part of that, there's information in that flyer, and we'll make sure that you get all that. But be thinking about that, and if you can help. And I think we need that by February 11th, so we've got a couple of weeks for that.
Flyers, they're out on the information desk.
Oh, are there some? Okay, sorry. So there are some at the information desk, then you can take a look at those. All right, let's say our verse together. 2 Peter 1:3. According as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, through the knowledge of him that hath called us to glory and virtue. 2 Peter 1:3. All right, great verse. All right, any other announcements, Joe?
Mary Burse was taken to the hospital.
Oh, okay. Mary Burse, all right. I did not know that.
Or Mengle.
Mingle. Yes, I knew who you meant. All right.
Did Ruth make it home?
Ruth made it home. I was just getting ready to say that. Yeah. Ruth is out of the hospital, home, and doing okay. So Christy's been with her a lot. Still doing okay? Okay. All right. So keep praying for her. She needs to regain some strength, but going all right. Okay, anything else?
It snowed.
I do recall that it snowed, yes. Yeah, and it might again, yeah. Yeah, I was here Sunday and none of you came. Mike?
Amy has started driving with Amber as her coach, so you should be aware of that.
Yeah, should be aware of that.
I'm aware.
So Amber is the driving coach?
Yeah.
Is that purposefully or?
Yeah. She's probably better for it than I am.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Listen, Amy's never going to get a speeding ticket. I mean, maybe for going like 6 in the 40s, but not for going over it.
okay. That usually changes. Yeah, yeah.
She doesn't like to turn left either. So she can take a while to get some places.
Yeah, that could be a problem. All right. Yeah. I thought I was done when our kids, including Junie, graduated, and then Stephanie got her driver's license 2 years ago, and so I had to go through that again. And she's one of the only ones I've ever had to tell speed up. You know, she'd go out on Route 7 and be going like 30, and I'm like, okay, you can go faster. You can go faster. Go faster.
Valerie hates parks doing 30.
I'll tell her you said that. Okay, 1 Samuel chapter 1. Last week we started into 1 Samuel and did a little bit of an introduction. And so I'm not going to go through that introduction again. We actually will go through some things that we looked at before a little bit later. Hang on, I'm missing a slide here. Let me back up and reload. Let's see, 1 Samuel, there it is. That looks better. So we went through the introduction last week, and the only thing that I didn't do, and I want to go ahead and put that up, is we're looking at 1 Samuel, but the focus of what we're studying is Samuel himself. And I want you to think about him as a prophet, him as a person. And so this is a character study to start with. And we will go through 1 Samuel, but we'll be looking particularly at Samuel's part in the things that take place up until his death, but then he has an interesting reappearance as well. I didn't put up here something that I think is helpful for us, and I want you to have a little bit of a mental picture when you read the Bible of where things are. A few of you have been to Israel, and so you've got a little picture of what it's like. Israel's not a big area. It's nothing like some of the states that we have, the size, and it's bordered by countries that hate it. Pastor Rogers?
The modern state of Israel is about the size of New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, so about the size of New Jersey. Yeah. So it's not a huge area, not a wide state, somewhat long. You've got length in it, but not width in it. And I've mentioned before, you can always kind of get your bearings because you're going to see, I had to cut it off to try to enlarge it, but this is the Dead Sea. On this map, it's actually labeled the Salt Sea. And then what river is this right here? Yeah, that's the Jordan River. And what's north of the Jordan River? What body of water? Yeah, the Sea of Galilee. And so you can get your bearings when you look at Israel by those three things. The Sea of Galilee is a smaller body of water. Then the Jordan River comes down. A lot happens at the Jordan River throughout the Bible. And then you've got the Dead Sea or the Salt Sea. And then Jerusalem, actually I put an arrow on this one. Jerusalem is right at the top of the Dead Sea. So it's west of it just a little bit. What was Jerusalem called before it was Jerusalem? Greg? What is it? Well, no, but it is actually sometimes referred to as Salem. Salem meaning peace, but it was not. What was it? City of David. It's called the City of David, but again, that's a little bit later. It was Jebus, Jebus. Before Jerusalem really became the center of activity, it was called Jebus, Jebus. And so on maps, sometimes you'll see that in the Old Testament. And then, of course, later, Jerusalem, the city of David, as Joe said, becomes the focal point of attention. That's where the temple is going to end up being built. Now, before that, we've looked at maps several times going through Judges, and we did going through Ruth because we had to look at Moab and then the area where Ruth was from up north a little bit. And so we've looked at the maps, but in the story that we're talking about, you're going to see right at the very beginning, it says, now there was a certain man from Ramathaim Zophim, and then later it's going to say that they went back to Ramah. Now, here's the problem with Ramah. There are numerous places named Ramah. Another question for you. Does anybody know what Ramah means? There's a reason that it is that there are several places. It actually means the heights or the twin heights sometimes. It's a high place. And obviously they would put cities on the hills. And so throughout the Bible you have a number of places that are called Ramah. I looked it up in Unger's Bible Dictionary today, just thought I'm going to read on Ramah, and I didn't realize how many there are. But this identifies it. It's Ramathaim Zophim in the hill country of Ephraim. Now, here's the problem. Where that blue arrow is, that's in the area of Benjamin. And so I think there are actually people who make a mistake when they're looking at this, because I was reading one commentator, and he said, well, Ramah is 5 miles north of Jerusalem. Well, that would be about 5 miles north, but I don't think that's the Ramah. I think it's a different place, because this is Ephraim up here, and we know that there were different Ephraims, or there were different Ramahs, and so it seems like there was a high place, a high hill, a city on a hill that was further up, and we know there were more than one. There was more than one place named Ramah, and so it's probably up in there somewhere. So we're talking about some place that's 5 to 15 miles away from Jerusalem, north of it. Then there's one other city that you'll kind of need to know as we read through this story, and that's Shiloh. And Shiloh at this point is the religious center of Jerusalem. We started with Jerusalem only because we know Jerusalem, but actually Shiloh is the religious center and will be for a few more chapters. It's actually for about 20 more years, but it's only going to be a few more chapters in Samuel. Because when the Philistines take the Ark of the Covenant from Shiloh, it loses its luster. It's no longer the religious center. But you're going to see as we read through this that Shiloh is now where they go for the feast, where they gather, where the ark is, where the tabernacle is, not the tent of meeting, not the temple, but the tabernacle that was the movable. It's a little more permanent when it's in Shiloh, but it's up in that area. So you're looking again, if you look at the red line and the green line, this is where the religious center moved from. And you can kind of think of it as the capital of Israel. It was Shiloh because that's where their religious activities took place. And then it shifted to Jerusalem because the temple was going to be built in Jerusalem. It was the city of David. So that kind of gives you a picture of what's taking place, just so you have that in your mind and you can remember what's going on when we read the story. Now, we started through this last week. I'm not going to put a lot on the screen. I just want you to read the story with me and give me a little input as we go through. Verses 1 through 8, we have Hannah's sorrow. And so let's go back to that. And I'm going to read it in New American Standard. There was a certain man from Ramathaim Zophim in the hill country of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, the name of the other Peninnah, and Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man would go up from his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord there. When the day came that Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah. But the Lord had closed her womb. Her rival, however, would provoke her bitterly to irritate her, because the Lord had closed her womb. It happened year after year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she would provoke her. So she went and would not eat. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat, and why is your heart sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? And here's where we stopped last week. Remember, I asked you the question, why is she sorrowing? And we listed 3 things. She's sorrowing, first of all, because she's barren. She doesn't have any children. And secondly, she's berated. If we want to keep them bees, she's provoked by her sister wife. And obviously he has 2 wives. When you read through the Old Testament, there are customs where they could take a wife if one wife was barren, and that seems to be what happened. And so here's this other wife that's just provoking her bitterly. And then the third reason is because she seems invalidated. She's misunderstood even. Her husband doesn't understand how much she's hurting. And so she's really at the place where she's suffering because she wants to have a child and she can't. And though he knows that, and he tries to be kind to her, he just can't understand, and he can't have the empathy that I think she needs to understand what's going on in her life and in her heart. And so you get to this place, and you've got Hannah who's heartbroken. Now, I want to stop here because with Elkanah, her husband, we have several things that are negatives about him. What are the negatives about Elkanah? We mentioned one. He has 2 wives. Yeah, so that's a problem. Never works out, although there does seem to be provision for it, but it never seems to go well. All right. What's another negative, a thing we look at Elkanah and say, this is a bad thing about him? All right. Jim?
He views himself pretty highly.
All right. Why do you say that? He views himself highly. Okay. Yeah. I'm worth 10 sons to you. He views himself highly. Okay. All right. I don't know that most wives would respond well to that. Yeah. Pastor Rogers?
He clearly shows favoritism.
All right. He shows favoritism. Yeah. Yeah. And, we would hope he did it carefully, but it doesn't seem like he did it carefully. So, yeah, that's problematic. Carol, what were you going to say? Okay. All right. Then what about positives? What could you say positively?
Shows piety.
All right, there's some piety in him. Here's a man who's going up yearly to the sacrifice. And remember the time period that we're in. What is the time period?
Judges.
Time period of Judges. This is not a climate where you have godly people encouraging one another. But and if you look at the rest of this, you have people who are clearly going and still making sacrifices, but you've got Hophni and Phinehas. Now you do have Eli, who seems to have a heart to want to do right. But you've got a climate that's not conducive to real worship. And so he has some piety about him. He is faithful in going up yearly to offer his sacrifices. Now, do any of our Old Testament scholars know why that's also indicates a little bit of a problem? Greg? Because you're what?
Atoning when you do that?
Well, atoning, all right, yeah, but that's not what I'm looking for here. Ron?
So it's supposed to go up 3 times.
Yeah, if you look at the Old Testament, they were supposed to go 3 times a year. And so they were supposed to be at the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Pentecost, and the Feast of Booths, I think it is. So they're actually supposed to go 3 times a year and gather. And it seems like he's saying, I'm going to give you 1 time a year. Now, I don't even know if they met 3 times a year, so I'm not too hard on him for that. But I do think we ought to point that out, that the Scripture clearly says that they're to gather 3 times a year in those festivals. He's not. But like I said, I don't know if anybody else was either. And so we have to be careful of condemning him for something we don't even know if it was available to him at that time. But here is sorrow. With Hannah, she's struggling. And I think everybody who reads the story can identify with her, can empathize with her, can understand why she's sorrowing. So her response is a great response. Let's go to verse 9. Verse 9, then Hannah rose after eating and drinking in Shiloh. And this is why I showed you where Shiloh was. This is where they were gathering. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She, greatly distressed, prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. She made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor shall never come on his head. I'll just stop there. Who does that remind you of? Samson, definitely. This is a Nazirite vow. It never calls it that, but that's what this is. It's a Nazirite vow. Apparently she knows of this. This is a serious vow, and it is something that she's making to the Lord, and she is saying a similar situation to Samson's parents. She was barren, and they have a son, but now she's made this vow. Now go into verse 12. Now it came about, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli was watching her mouth. As for Hannah, she was speaking in her heart, only her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. Then Eli said to her, How long will you make yourself drunk? Put away your wine from you. But Hannah replied, No, my Lord. I am a woman oppressed in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not consider your maidservant as a worthless woman, for I have spoken until now out of my great concern and provocation. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your petition that you have asked of him. She said, Let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. All right, I like to do this once in a while, but as we read through that, what are some of the impressions or things that you think we ought to point out as we read through that? What are some things that you say, well, that's good or bad, or things that we ought to think about? Andy?
She had implicit faith that God was going to fulfill her prayer.
Okay, implicit faith that God was going to fulfill her prayer. All right, I would say that she knew where to go, that she knew the only one that can help me is God.
Well, she said she was no longer sad.
Right. Well, she's no longer sad because Eli is going to say to her, you're going to get your prayer answered. Yeah, so it is faith that's going to take place. All right, good. Ron?
And was it proper for Israelites to pray directly to God, or did they have to go through the priest?
They did not have to go through the priest. That's a good question. Could the Israelites go directly to God, or did they have to go through a priest? And sometimes this is something we think about. The Old Testament and the New Testament are different. We can go to God. We've been invited to Him. Certainly they could go as well. They could come to God. And this is interesting because this is one of the places in Scripture where we have a lady who is going before the Lord, and it doesn't give us her posture, but it would seem that she is either kneeling or lying down or sitting, but she's in some posture where Eli confuses her for being drunk. But when you think about her, she is pouring her soul out to God. She's talking directly to Him. This is impressive for an Old Testament saint, a lady in the Old Testament. And this is a prayer where she's just coming clean with God. She, greatly distressed, prayed. And she wept bitterly. She's coming directly to God. Can you think of other places where people individually, Ron, you might think of some, people individually without a priest have gone before God. They've talked to Him. Oh, David, you think of him over and over and over. David cries out to God and talks to Him. Pastor Rogers? Well, even Jesus in the garden. Yeah, right. Rebecca? Say. Daniel. Yeah, Daniel does. Mike? Job. Yeah, Job is talking to God. Andy?
Samuel at the end, or Samson at the end.
Samson. Yeah. So all the way through the Old Testament, you've got this. Mike? Well, that's true. Jonah talked to the Lord. Yeah. But, you know, we think about the Old Testament and prayer, and sometimes we think, oh, they couldn't pray like we do. Well, they could. We have a different way of accessing. They had to offer sacrifices and then come before God. But they certainly could do this. And Hannah knew this. She knew that she could talk to the Lord. She could go before Him, pour her heart out, and really plead for the Lord to intercede on her behalf. Okay, Pastor Rogers?
Do you think it was, I thought I was going to read through here, evident of the condition of Shiloh that Eli would think there'd be a drunk person at the tabernacle?
I was hoping somebody would say that. It did not seem to surprise Eli. I mean, it's almost as if he said, another drunk person at the tabernacle. Another drunk person rolling around on the floor. It didn't seem like it was uncommon or unusual.
Not only that, but how many of them were praying in that way?
Yeah. How many were praying at that? You mean drunk or?
No, praying like in distress.
Right.
Passionately like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, were people praying passionately like that? I don't know if he saw anybody doing it. Right. So it might be something that's like, oh, I haven't seen people do that. Tyler?
But it just goes to show that even a priest can judge too quickly.
And that's another thing I was hoping somebody would point out. You know, we've talked about Hannah's sorrow. This is almost at first like another dagger to the heart. And you may have been in a situation like this before, where here's this lady and she's heartbroken anyway. And she's struggling because she doesn't think anybody understands. She goes to church and she pours her heart out. And then here comes the priest. And he says, you drunk woman. You know, and she's just got to be like, oh, I can't win. I might as well just quit. Because everybody misunderstands me. I don't get what I want. God's mad at me. But instead, she seems to keep her sweet spirit. And she says, no, my Lord, I am a woman oppressed in spirit. She has to tell him, I'm oppressed in spirit. He doesn't seem to have the sensitivity to pick that up. Yeah, he jumps to conclusions and he doesn't pick up what's really going on. She says, I'm not one of the worthless women. The women of Belial is, I think King James actually translates it that way, the women of Belial. Ron? Right, they're not in the temple. This will be, yeah, and I think I said temple, that it's the tabernacle area. We don't know exactly what they had there, actually. We know it's the tabernacle. There's the outer court. If they still had the tent set up, You had the boundary with the outer tent, and then you had the Holy of Holies and the tent that was put up. We assume all that was still there, but we don't know how they were meeting. We don't even know exactly where she was. But it was at the place where they were offering sacrifices. So yeah, Ron, you have a good point. We don't know exactly what the layout was here. But he was thinking, here's another drunk lady. All right, anything else that you notice? And actually, Andy pointed something out that I think is worth pointing out, and I'll separate it in what he said. What's the last thing that it says about Hannah in this passage? She was no longer sad. Why was she no longer sad? She was told that the Lord was going to answer her prayer. Eli answered her and says, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your petition that you've asked of him." And she took that as the priest saying, this is going to happen. And when she left, she went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Her countenance was changed because she took the time to pray, and she took the time to listen, and she kept her wits about her even in those times when somebody said something at church that could have hurt her deeply. Tyler?
Obviously it's because the prayer was going to be answered, but he also believed her that she wasn't drunk.
Yes.
It wasn't just like, oh no, you're lying to me.
Yeah. He believed her when she said she wasn't drunk. I think it would be obvious probably once she starts talking. I would think that he'd see that this is a lady who truly is in distress. So here we go then with a lady who is exemplary in her response. We don't know how long this has gone on. We know it's long enough that Peninnah has had several children. I don't remember if it says how many. It says all her sons and daughters. So there are at least 2 sons, 2 daughters. And so you're talking about this has gone on for years, and she's struggled with this. And now at this point, she finally just falls before the Lord, and she says, if you give me a son, I will give him back to you. And that's going to be important, that God brings her to this place where she falls before him, makes the vow, and then she hears the answer from Eli. All right, here's the third thing then in this chapter. We go to verses 19 through verse 23. And this is her son. This is going to be the answer to the prayer. Verse 19. Then they arose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord and returned again to their house in Ramah. And Elkanah had relations with Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. It came about in due time after Hannah had conceived that she gave birth to a son, and she named him Samuel, saying, because I have asked him of the Lord. Then the man Elkanah went up with all his household to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and pay his vows. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, I will not go up until the child is weaned. Then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord and stay there forever. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, do what seems best to you. Remain until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord confirm his word. So the woman remained and nursed her son until she weaned him. All right? Here's the Lord answering the prayer then. And they returned to Ramah. She conceives. She gives birth to a son. She names him Samuel. Does anybody have a note as to what his name means? Name of God. His Samuel means name of God, or God's name, something like that. It's a little confusing, and I've done a lot of reading on this, but in the text it says, she named him Samuel because I have asked him of the Lord. And so it seems like she was saying that his name reminds me I have asked him of the Lord. But it means to us something different, but it clearly meant something to her. It was meant to remind her that this was an answer to prayer. This was something that God had clearly done, and God had responded because she had asked this of him. And his name was to remind her of that. Every time she said Samuel, she was thinking, because I have asked of him of God, and God has given him to me. And his name is significant to me. All right, then you go to verse 21, and Hannah takes his household, and he does what he does. He takes his yearly sacrifice, and he's going to pay his vows. But when he gets ready to go, Hannah says, I'm not going with you. And she says to her husband, I'm not going to go till the child is weaned. Now, we'll come back to that in just a second. And then Elkanah says to her, do what seems best to you. Now, how do you interpret that? There are a couple of ways to think about that. Ron?
Hannah shared her vow with her husband, and he approved of it.
All right, I think he approved of it. All right. Anybody else? Do what seems best to you. Rebecca? All right, he trusts her judgment. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Pastor Rogers?
I think the kids nowadays would say, you do you.
You do you. All right, that'll be in our version of the Bible. Yeah. All right, you do you. Joe?
Just maybe he didn't do his part as the father and husband and take her to deliver the child.
Take her to what?
To deliver the child.
Oh, to deliver the child. Okay. All right. So here's the question. The boy is born. She's made a vow. When does that vow have to be paid? Can you make an argument that right away the child should go to the tabernacle? Nobody wants to make that argument? All right, there's no evidence, but she made a vow, and I'm going to give him to the Lord. All right, so how long do you keep him there? Andy?
A baby is awfully hard to take care of. You get one that's 3 or 4, and they're a lot easier. They're already house broke.
I agree. Yeah. I will tell you, when I read this, I look at it and I think, here's Elkanah, and he says to her, okay, I'm wondering if he's thinking, I think we ought to take him up to get him used to the tabernacle anyway, this trip, and he ought to be introduced, and I don't know if he's thinking they should leave him there at that point, but I'm wondering if there's a question, should we go in spite of the fact I may not be leaving him yet, but let's get him up there, get him used to it. I could see a little bit of a discussion going on between the two of them. Jim?
I got the impression, I was reading it today, I got the impression she wasn't ready to give up.
That she wasn't ready to give him up? You could definitely make that argument, yeah. She says, I'm not going to give him up till he's weaned. Christy?
Was it wrong for her not to go?
Oh, I don't know. Was it wrong for her? I don't think so. I mean, I should say, I don't feel like it is.
Well, I mean, as far as, I think as Greg kind of pointed out, they go to offer atonement for sin, right?
Yes.
And so, was it wrong for her to stay behind and not go and do that?
I wonder that. I kind of feel like that he might have been looking at her and saying, this is something we do every year, and I feel like you should go, but I'm going to trust your judgment. If you don't want to go, then that's fine. All right? We'll kind of come back to that in just a second. So think about that. Then, as you look through that passage, she says, I'm not going to go up until the child is weaned. He's nursing. How old would the child have been then? At the very end, she nursed her son until she weaned him. How old is he?
Jewish tradition is 3.
Okay. All right. Do you know where that comes from?
I do, and I don't remember it, but they look at it. Sideburns grow, and I'm just trying
Yeah.
to think through what.
Second Maccabees. Yeah, it's actually in the Apocrypha. And that's, of course, not inspired, but it is Jewish history. And the Jewish history is that he would have been 3 years old. Now, Andy said, yeah, we don't want to take a baby up there and leave him. If you bring your 3-year-old and try to leave him, I'm not taking him. Because I know some 3-year-olds I don't want to chase around at this point.
Eli wasn't that great of a dad either.
And this had to weigh on them. Eli is not that great of a father. This to me would be a very difficult thing. That you're going to take your 3-year-old and you're going to leave him with Eli, whose sons are horrendous. Pastor Rogers?
Not just Eli's condition as a father, but in the next couple of verses, after a few years have passed, it says that he's very old.
Yes.
And so we always assume Eli's the one raising him, but
Yeah.
I mean, Hannah doesn't actually. I mean, she may know, but we don't know.
Yeah.
Who's actually doing the right to raise him.
Yeah. Who's actually caring for him? Yeah, we don't know. All right, let's go on. You've got the son. Did we read all the way through that? We did. So let's go to the sacrifice then, verse 24 through 28. Verse 24, now when she had weaned him, and we're assuming he's about 3 years old, and then listen to this next part. Now, if you have a King James Version, notice a difference here. When she had weaned him, she took him up with her, with a 3-year-old bull and 1 ephah of flour and a jug of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, although the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull and brought the boy to Eli. She said, O my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. For this boy I prayed, and the Lord has given me my petition which I ask of him. So I have also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord there. Now, when you begin this section, when she had weaned him, again, we think that's probably 3, oldest would be 4. Then she takes him up with her, and with her she takes a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a jug of wine. Now, does anybody have a King James Version? What does it say? Greg?
It says that she brought 3 bulls and they only slew one.
Okay, yeah. So if you read, you'll actually find in the Hebrew manuscripts, there is a little discrepancy here, and I don't know that it matters significantly because the word 3 is there. But in the King James Version, you'll see that it is translated from the Masoretic text as she brought 3 bulls, and then they translated 1. Then in most of the more modern versions, it says she took a 3-year-old bull with her. And then the reason that they translate it that way is because the next part seems to give credence to that, because it says that they slaughtered the bull, or one of them, and it seems like there was 1. But either way, what does the 3, either 3 bulls, I think you could make an argument for that actually, what does that confirm for us, basically? Yeah, I think his age. I think it's indicating she's bringing the sacrifices that she would have brought when she comes up. Now, here's one of the other arguments that it was actually 3 separate bulls. An ephah of flour would be what we would think of as basically a bushel of flour. And that was 3 times the amount that they would normally bring. And so if you want to make the argument that she brought 3 bulls, and 3 years worth of sacrifices for that, and 3 years worth of the flour, then you could make that argument. In the end, it doesn't make any significant difference. But it does affirm for us that we believe this child was probably about 3 years old. And we're going to find that repeatedly. We had noted already that the child was weaned. In verse 24, it finishes by saying, although the child was young. And then as you go into chapter 2 and begin to get into some of the other passages, it's going to talk about his age as well. He's a little boy. And as she goes up to the temple or the tabernacle in Shiloh, you who are moms, what's going through your mind at this point? We've already talked a little bit about Eli and the climate there, but is he going to survive? Yeah. This is brutally hard. This is one of those times, did you ever make a vow and then think, why did I do that? Do you think that went through her mind? Probably. I mean, it had to tear at her heart when she took him up there and then drove away. I mean, I've seen Christy when we left our college kids, at college. But a 3-year-old? That's hard. But here she is, and of the women that we study, she is honorable because she made this vow, and she says, I'm going to fulfill this. I'm going to pay this vow. As you come to the end of this, most of you would recognize these verses. When you come to verse 26, a lot of times at baby dedications, we read this. She said, "O my Lord, as my soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying." And so we were talking earlier about where. Well, it seems like this is a sacred place. And she says, I was right here. And I was praying. And I prayed for this boy. And the Lord's answered my prayer. And I asked of him. So I've also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he's dedicated to the Lord. So I'm going to fulfill exactly what I've said that I would do. That I've dedicated him to the Lord. I wanted to read something to you, and I forgot to mark it in this book. I don't know if I can come up with it right away. Oh, yes, here it is. So it's interesting, we talked about Samuel's name, and she said that his name means because I have asked him of the Lord. The Hebrew, I'm not a Hebrew scholar at all, but when you read this, the emphasis in this prayer, this dedication is he is the one who is asked of the Lord. So this is a book by Dale Ralph Davis. And in talking about this, he said, if we tolerate a rougher rendering of it, talking about this verse, we could read it like this. For this child I prayed, and Yahweh gave me my asking, which I asked from him. And I also have given back what was asked to Yahweh. All the days he lives, he is one who is asked for Yahweh. And the emphasis really is, I asked for him, and God gave him. I asked for him, and so here's what the Lord asked from me to give him back. And so I'm going to do that. And she is faithful in following through with exactly what she says. But that word ask and received is something that's constantly there. That God has given him, and now I'm giving him back to the Lord. And then notice the last phrase in verse 28. And he worshiped the Lord there. Who is the he? I think it's Samuel. Yeah. I think it's clearly talking about Samuel. Throughout the passage, it's talking about the child is weaned. The child is weaned. She dedicates the child, and the child worshiped the Lord there. So, what would you infer from that about the mother's teaching of this child? Andy?
That God was a big part of his life.
Yes, God was a big part of his life. At 3 years old, I don't know a lot of kids who could worship the Lord, but she was very serious in what she was teaching him. That at that point, he worshiped the Lord there. Now, I don't know whether it means that he actually started praying and was doing things, or if this is kind of saying he started there and he worshiped the Lord there the rest of his life. I kind of think it means more of that. Joe?
I can tell you that with the religious Jews, they start when they're infants, and by the time they're 1 and 2, they are reciting the prayers in Hebrew.
Yes.
In the songs in Hebrew, and the upsharing is the ceremony at 3 years old, where they actually give him to God. He wears the yarmulke, he puts the tefillin on, and he worships the Lord on his own from that.
Yeah. Somebody else had their hand up. Jim?
I was a little confused earlier when I read it, only because of the word in the King James that said, I have lent him.
Yeah.
I looked at it in the NASB, and it said dedicated.
Yes.
It seemed completely
They do. Yeah. And if you're reading the King James and it says, I have lent him to the Lord, you get the idea, I loaned him, I'm going to take him back. Yeah. That's not what it actually means. It does actually mean this is what I asked for and I'm giving him back. Yeah, so I'm glad you pointed that out, because it does, in our understanding of English language now, it means something different. Ron?
Even at 3 years old, he knew he was staying and not going home.
He did. Yeah. Yeah, she had prepared him for that. Yeah, she had taught him, prepared him. I know that a lot of times, do any moms in here, when you have your kids, tell them their birth story? You were born in the middle of the night. I stayed up 24 hours, and all the things that happened. I think she told him from day one, I asked the Lord for you, and He gave me you, and you're going to serve the Lord. I'm going to give you back to Him. And I don't know what He's going to have you do, but you are the Lord's. And she prepared him for this. And it's a great story when you think about it. All right, any other notes or any other thoughts on that? Bill?
It says that Elkanah went back to Ramah, but it didn't say that Hannah went back. Is it possible she would have stayed in Shiloh with him for a time?
Oh, you mean after she dedicated him?
It says in this 11th, the 11th verse that he went back, but it didn't say that she went back.
Verse 11 of chapter 1?
No, 2.
Oh, chapter 2. I mean, it's possible. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Yeah, it doesn't say, but I suppose she could have.
Because of Eli's age, it would be really difficult for him to instruct him in the Lord.
Yeah.
And it would have been there would have needed to be somebody that would have continued to instruct him in the Lord. I don't know if Eli would have been possible at his age.
Yeah. Well, they would have had other people there. I'm sure he would have turned the care over to somebody. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is that she's going to have more children pretty soon, so she didn't stay there very long if she did. Yeah. Nate?
Does her giving Samuel to the Lord, was the original intent that he would be serving with Eli? Because Samson was used differently.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's an important question. Did she know what she was giving him up to do? I don't think. Because it says, all it says is, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor shall never come on his head. I don't know that she knew what she was giving him up to do, but she was dedicating him to the Lord, and for some reason, she knew that he should be left there at the tabernacle. And I don't know how she came to that. Ron?
Service of the Lord did not go out of the tribe of Ephraim.
Say that one more time.
Service to the Lord was not the responsibility of the tribe of Ephraim.
Right. Sir, yeah. The service to the Lord is not the tribe of Ephraim's responsibility. It would be the tribe of Levi and at the tabernacle. So he would need to be in that group. Although Samson was used differently. So I don't know any more than what it says here, basically. Okay? All right, good. Anything else? All right, let's go to chapter 2, and I want to just finish by reading this. This is Hannah's song, and this was probably before a congregation of worshipers. And the theme of the whole song is her confidence in God's sovereignty. She praises God for His holiness, His power, His knowledge, His judgment. The word asked and received is used several times in here. And so this was part of the dedication as far as we can tell. So look at chapter 1. Let's just read chapter 2, verses 1 through 10, and we'll finish there. Then Hannah prayed and said, My heart exalts in the Lord. My horn is exalted in God. My mouth speaks boldly against my enemies, because I rejoice in your salvation. There is no one holy like the Lord. Indeed, there is no one besides you, nor is there any rock like our God. Boast no more so very proudly. Do not let arrogance come out of your mouth, for the Lord is a God of knowledge, and with him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty are shattered, but the feeble gird on strength. Those who were full hire themselves out for bread, and those who were hungry cease to hunger. Even the barren gives birth to 7, and she who has many children languishes. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and raises up. The Lord makes poor and rich. He brings low. He also exalts. He raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap to make them sit with nobles and inherit a seat of honor. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he set the world on them. He keeps the feet of his godly ones, but the wicked ones are silenced in darkness. For not by might shall a man prevail. Those who contend with the Lord will be shattered. Against them he will thunder in the heavens. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth, and he will give strength to his king, and will exalt the horn of his anointed. So here is Hannah in this praise that's given before the whole congregation. And she's noting that God often reverses the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And this has happened for Ruth in the chapter before this, or in the book before this, and now to Hannah. That the circumstances are terrible. But here is God able to completely transform that into something that would never have been expected. And it's a great story. They're going to fade off the scene, but they're fading off the scene completely differently than they came onto the scene. And the song of praise is a great way to end with her story. All right, let's pray, and then we'll go. Father, thank you again for our time, and we thank you for the illustrations we have of real people who have gone through real difficulties, and they've seen you working in ways that are completely unexpected. And so, Lord, we pray that you'll help us to take lessons that are practical and useful for ourselves. In Jesus' name, amen.